And it is Thursday morning, not in January, but in July in Chicago. And it is sweltering. We've got high humidity and the heat is spiking, and it feels like summertime in the heartland of America. How are you this morning, Barrett?
I'm good, Chris, and it seems to be a thing around months. I think last time we called it January, this time we called it July, but now it's actually August.
That's right. I'm going through everything at my own pace, and that's why the whole universe right now is experiencing these odd fluctuations. As I'm dilly dallying with months here.
You're having a temporal shift or something.
Yes, I'm creating a temporal shift. I am the ripple.
It sounds like something that the USS Enterprise would come across on their journeys throughout time. Oh, we have encountered a temporal rift in the space-time continuum.
Absolutely. And I'm getting ready to drag myself out to see that new Star Trek movie sometime this week, which I am in great expectation of because this time they actually make it out beyond the boundaries of where all their previous stories occurred. They go beyond, you know, space and time, apparently, because way back there in Star Trek Five, I think the movie um, where they go to that far country and on a quest to find God,
Hmm.
only to find Spock's brother's ego, which is kind of an interesting movie into itself. And definitely, if you haven't seen that movie, you need to pick it up because uh, they all deliver, but especially Leonard Nimoy and his brother Sarek, who
Hmm.
is quite an interesting pundit.
Hmm.
So he removes all of your pain, and of course Spock says, "I don't want my pain removed. My pain makes me who I am." And I thought, wow, that's a Course in Miracles in a nutshell.
Yeah. There's a lot of really good ideas, like you said, going beyond time and space. I think, oh, what are we doing here? But other, trying to have that experience of ultimately releasing our bond with time and space and stepping into the infinite. So I like that a lot. Movies can be a really cool gateway into a lot of these spiritual experiences or deeper understandings of what's going on here.
They can be, yes. And we've got a whole bunch of stuff coming up over the next 6 months that are going to be hopefully very insightful movies that cause us to evolve our consciousness a little bit. That would be fun.
Yeah. I know I've had definitely some big openings around movies too. One story that comes to mind is feeling called a number of years ago after I'd started studying the course, though, to see a movie called Old No Country for Old Men, um, which won some Oscars, but it was a very violent movie, a very kind of depressing movie and story for the most part. Um, and so I kind of questioned, like, why was I feeling drawn to this movie? But I had this experience while I was in the movie theater where I got that just like I was watching a movie, and that might be kind of messed up, but it wasn't actually true, that all of this was a movie. So I was like watching the movie of Barrett sitting in a movie theater watching a movie. It was really a really big shift for me. It was really healing. One of those deep, like, whoa kind of moments.
I love it when that happens. And that, that kind of goes back into Edgar Allan Poe and his work, where at one point he came to that sudden realization that all of this is a dream within a dream.
Hmm.
And again, you get that dimensional awareness that, not only are you watching the movie, but you wrote the script. And so it's like, maybe I could have planned this a little bit better.
Well, yeah, it seems that way, and then we get that actually for our purposes we planned this perfectly. Because when we were aligned with the ego, our purpose was to reinforce guilt and fear and shame and bitterness and suffering, and this world will do that in spades.
It is a rough ride, yes, and as soon as we can draw ourselves back from being in attack mode, that's one of the scary things is that 99.999% of us are always on the edge, waiting for somebody to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing, and then we turn into rabid animals going after them. And I think that's the beginnings of one stage of enlightenment is when you can become cognitive of that instinct and start to derail it, and be patient with yourself, but at least observe where your thoughts are headed. And when you step into that temptation to be able to withdraw from the field and lay down your armor and your weaponry and just have a cold beer and kick back.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's, excuse me, is really helpful when we can just watch what's happening in front of us. So I think I'm gonna put myself on mute for a second here.
Well, that's kind of fun. I go through that myself periodically. I think we've got stuff in the air that's always going to cause us a certain amount of agitation. So I wonder why you put that in the script, Barrett.
Well, oftentimes I notice around coughing or stuff in your throat that there's something that needs to be said. So obviously there's something that needs to be said here, and maybe we can see what that is. Maybe it's just Jesus's way of saying, "Okay, you guys have talked long enough. At least read a little something from the course."
I think you're probably right on point with that. And last week we were still looking at the third obstacle, and we were discussing death and its somewhat macabre attraction. And then we were looking at the incorruptible body. Now, the body is ruled in this world by death. And it says, early on that, and what is a black draped body they would bury, a body which they dedicated to death, a symbol of corruption, a sacrifice to sin, offered to sin to feed upon and keep itself alive, a thing condemned, damned by its maker, and lamented by every mourner who looks upon it as himself. Wow, holy Toledo! That is kind of a hideously accurate description. It causes one to fall on one's knees and say, "Holy shit! Look at the world I'm in, and why did I create this for myself?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he does kind of even go deeper into this, using the great word sepulture or sepulcher of separation a little further on in this paragraph. He says, "The glitter of guilt you laid upon the body would kill it. For what the ego loves, it kills for its obedience. But what obeys it not, it cannot kill." So that last sentence is sort of the arrow out of this insanity. It's like we don't need to obey the body's dictates. Now, let me be clear about what I'm saying. It's still okay to brush your teeth at the end of the day and eat and exercise or do whatever kind of bodily things are right for you, but that we don't need to make the body the purpose of our life. We don't need to make the body's pleasures or avoidance of pain our ultimate goal, that we can use the body more as a communication tool. as Jesus refers to it, and we can let the body just be a vessel for spirit, in a way that maybe it's just being kind. Maybe it's just giving someone a hug. But when we shift into that mode of using the body for kindness and love, then we are kind of changing the purpose of the body, and the next paragraph does kind of lead right into that. So I'm going to read a little of that too. You have another dedication that would keep the body incorruptible and perfect as long as it is useful for your holy purpose. The body no more dies than it can feel. It does nothing. Of itself, it is neither corruptible nor incorruptible. It is nothing. So he's saying here, really literally, the body is nothing. Now, for most of us, that doesn't seem true. And, Jesus knows this. He talks about in another section in the text, the hero of the dream. The hero of your dream is your body. You think that the body is what you are, and that is the truth. But what we're coming to see is you are mistaken. And what you really are is love, is truth, is beyond form. But it does take a while for us to accept that truth.
Exactly. And, this actually is a concept that shows up in the Course a lot, but it was literally, directly grafted into the Course from the New Testament, from Matthew 6:25 through 34 in the King James Version, which I've got up here on the screen right now. It says, "Therefore I say unto you, take no thought for your life, what ye shall eat, or what ye shall drink, nor yet for your body, what ye shall put on. Is not the life more important than meat, and the body than raiment?" So, we're looking at a whole different shift in perception of reality when we really start to investigate what Jesus had laid out for us 2,000 years ago and came back and reiterated for us in the 20th century. I mean, it's really a thing where there is absolutely no variance in the message. And that's what I especially can appreciate about the way the Course unfolds. And, I love the Beatitudes. I think that the Sermon on the Mount was one of the most significant parts of the New Testament. And if we can take those up and expand on them and look into the Course in Miracles, it definitely fills in all those empty spaces for us.
Yeah, and I agree. Jesus was saying these same things 2,000 years ago, and some of what he says in the Bible, I don't think were his actual words. So there's a little bit of cloudiness, but at times the light shines through very clearly, like what you just read, and we can see that the message is the same. So I think that is actually one of the purposes of the Course, is to correct the mistaken ideas that Christianity has put on Jesus' teachings, and to help us come back to what he was saying and still is saying to us right now in this very moment. Sometimes it looks like a body, your body perhaps, has found a book called A Course in Miracles, and then you started studying it, and that's why you're having this experience. But on a deeper level, you just wanted to wake up to the truth of what you are. And all of this is playing out in the world of time and space because you have chosen to awaken. And it kind of puts a different spin on it when we look at it from that perspective.
It absolutely does. And, one of the things that I like about the Beatitudes and how he starts off with that very powerful message was that if you go back and look at the Jewish culture in that era, as well as in many ways in this era, they have all of these laws about what you can eat and all of these laws about appearance and things of that sort. So they were a culture that was obsessed with separating your cheese from your meat on your plate, and all of these different rituals. And for Jesus to make a statement like that in the midst of that culture in that era was astonishing. I mean, that alone would have probably inflamed the rabbinical community to, make that decision. We got to get rid of this guy. Uh, so, it's taken us 2,000 years to get to the point where a broader part of society can at least begin to entertain these ideas. Uh, Even all of the other cultures of the past had their restrictions and fears and limitations around diet and food, etc. And now, even though we do have a lot of people obsessed with GMOs and this and that and all these other things, the truth is people are starting to loosen up to the degree where they can actually hear messages like this and begin to challenge all the old preconceptions about what the body is and how you can use the body, and how ultimately the body can become a thing of beauty and grace.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. And as we turn into using the body for love and kindness, it's a very different experience. We find that we let go of our anxieties, we let go of our upsets, and there's another section here in this area we're looking at that really speaks to letting go of the fear of death. And in paragraph 9, Jesus says, "The fear of death will go as its appeal is yielded to love's real attraction. The end of sin, which nestles quietly in the safety of your relationship, protected by your union with your brother, and ready to grow into a mighty force for God, is very near. The infancy of salvation is carefully guarded by love, preserved from every thought that would attack it, and quietly made ready to fulfill the mighty task for which it was given you. Your newborn purpose is nursed by angels, cherished by the Holy Spirit, and protected by God Himself. It needs not your protection. It is yours, for it is deathless, and within it lies the end of death." So that's really what we're talking about here, is the end of the idea of death. And without the idea of death, then this world of death, it doesn't have a purpose other than for us to awaken from it. And that really is our goal here, is to see that we can use everything that happens here to let go of all fear, to let go of all shame, to let go of all thought of sin, so that we can come to know that what we really are is happy, is peaceful, is joyful, is pure. And that's a goal worth going for.
It definitely is. And the testimony of this world, the testimony of the ego, is so entrenched in death. I mean, we see everything that is happening in this world around us propelled by death. Even our automobiles are propelled by dead dinosaurs from, 500,000 years ago. So it just gets more and more absurd when you stop and look at that and then try to reconcile this world with a God who is love. And, if you're even momentarily lucid when you're looking at the Bible or the New Testament and you read that passage where Jesus says God is love, well, that alone should make you stop and ponder whether or not God can be given the the kudos for having created this mess, because nowhere around you, if you're looking at life on the material level, does love and life prevail. Everything is this ongoing orgasm of death. And that is the beauty of A Course in Miracles, is that it brings us back into truth and into a lucid state, so that while we are still dreaming, we are actually lucid dreaming and beginning to realize there is a back door to the theater. Maybe it's time to leave.
Yeah, yeah, it is time. The fire alarm is going off, and the exit doors are open. Just stand up out of your seat and head towards the exits, please.
Yes, don't panic because you will you'll get caught by the blob that is slowly emerging out of the ventilator shaft. So it is a fascinating experience we've created, and that's why we've got to get beyond the past, that path of trying to resist it or fix it. And that goes down to the smallest level: is you can't fix the dream from inside the dream. That is the first recognition that we have to actually accept. So then that takes all of the rallying and you know getting out and protesting and voting and doing this and doing that. We all of a sudden start to realize, oh, I am contributing to the mess by trying to force my ego's idea of fixing the mess into the mess. So it gets really messy when you start stepping back a little bit and looking at the way things are happening.
Yeah, yeah. And for some reason, what comes to mind is all your usage of the word mess. But even mess can have a different purpose, like a mess hall. It's where you go to get food, where you go to get nourishment, and it's like, yeah, we can have a different purpose for everything in this world. So every experience here of suffering and pain, every challenge that we're going through, if we give it over to the Holy Spirit, if we ask Jesus to show us a different way of seeing it, we will get a new perspective. We will get a better way. We will be able to see it more and more through eyes of love until we see everything with eyes of love. And what a world that'll be. The world might still be suffering or struggling, but we won't be making it wrong, and we won't be suffering from what we see. Um, that's the world that we can really be the most helpful by being in that state. That we can be the kindest, we can be the most caring, we can be the most compassionate, because all we have left in our heart is love. So that's I think a good thing to aim for, and I think it's the goal that Jesus gives us in the Course. And when we realize that the body can be incorruptible in the way he's talking about here, it can be incorruptible by the ego. When we use it for a pure vessel for spirit, that is a beautiful goal and a beautiful way to use this physical experience that we have. So I think it might be good just to kind of end up with the closing prayer in this section, which is so nice. Jesus says, "Take this from me and look upon it, judging it for me. Let me not see it as a sign of sin and death, nor use it for destruction. Teach me how not to make of it an obstacle to peace, but let you use it for me to facilitate its coming." So just asking for help when something comes into our life that feels stressful or painful or upsetting, realizing that we can find a peaceful way to be with it. That's our guiding principle this day and every day.
Yes, it is. And living in that state of not my will, but thy will be done uh, in heaven as well as here on earth. And that really is the thing that we have to contemplate frequently, is the fact that we are conduits for allowing God's will to become manifest here on earth. And that's not done by running around and doing stuff. That's done by being an active force of love. So, if you take certain things out of the New Testament that Jesus stated as being quite literal, as well as parallels in the Course in Miracles, one of his favorite statements throughout both areas there was, God is love. So whenever love is manifest, anywhere around you, when you can embrace somebody with a loving thought, when you can see a situation in a loving way, when you can, see the love and the divinity in the day-to-day momentary experiences of life, then you arrive at that point where you're doing what? You are manifesting God. So how powerful an idea is that? And all we have to do is stop all of our silliness and just reside in love, reside in God. And we're doing everything that is possible on every level to transform and heal the world.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And one of the words that you used really stood out, which is conduit. And it reminded me of this phrase, you can do it.
Oh, wow. That takes me back up to the good old days in Alaska when I was in the Yukon Territory, and we did it. we made a pipeline happen all the way across Alaska.
Is that your motto? You can do it?
You can do it. And if you're clever, you can go out and get Yukon gold potatoes, and then you can have golden potatoes. And I don't know where I'm going with this, so we probably should stop.
Well, good to end on a chuckling note. So, yeah, and just a reminder that Chris and I had a really great in-person event this last Sunday. Our Step into the Light workshop and more are upcoming, so we'll keep you posted on those. Yeah, always more good things popping.
Absolutely. And your website is a good place to get updated on all the different activities going on around the area, because next weekend you've got Connection with Charlie, you've got the Costa Rica trip, and there's just a lot of stuff happening with the Course in Miracles. So check out Barrett's website, and you can stay ahead of the curve as far as being able to show up and experience these things.
And one other plug for an event here in the Chicago area is that Gary and Cindy Renard are coming to Chicago for a weekend workshop that's going to be in the Northbrook area. That's August 13th and 14th. And you can sign up through Infinity Foundation. The event is being put on by them. So, yeah, it'd be great. I'm going to be there, so it'd be great to see you there.
Well, Barrett, we will be convening in 1 week and having another chuckle or two about how silly this whole thing is that we take so seriously.
Sounds good. I always have a good time with you, Chris.
Take care.
All right. Bye, man.
Yeah, bye.